Tape recorder is running.
Okay, that's great. So this is the Land Use and Landmarks Committee meeting for January 3rd, year 2022. Jerry, would you mind doing the roll call?
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
Chair Teague?
Here.
Maria Vieira?
I know she's here.
Okay. Trina McKeever?
Here.
Stephen Chesler?
Here.
Erin Drinkwater? Moisha Indig?
Here. Sorry, I have a problem with my computer.
Moisha Indig? Ozetta Kaminsky?
Yeah.
Abraham Leibovitz? Sante Maselli?
Yep.
Rabbi Niederman?
Here.
Karen Nieves? Isaac Sofer? Robert Solano? Steve Weidberg?
Here.
William Vega?
Here.
Simon Weiser?
Here.
Michael Andrews?
Here.
Keith Berger? Corey Canton?
I think he's here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Corey Canton?
Here.
Michael Kowalska?
Here.
Katie Napolitarski? Allison Stone?
Here.
Okay, great. So,
16.
thank you. 16 present. I don't expect this to be the time to be an issue tonight, but just to remind myself and everyone else that we do have this a rule that we must try best to finish all of our meetings by 9 p.m. We only have 2 items tonight, so hopefully that's not going to be a big issue tonight. Why don't we get started? The first application is 103 Lee Avenue for zoning amendment. And who's going to present?
Hi, Richard Lobel of Shelby PC.
Okay. So why don't you get started?
Thank you. And I know Fan Baton from my office is here and is going to be sharing her screen.
Okay, great.
We're also joined by Mark Spitzer, the project applicant, Kevin Williams, who's the environmental consultant, and I believe that the project architect that Russ is on as well. Good evening. We're here for a rezoning for 103 Lee Avenue. Next slide. So to recap what was already discussed at the full board hearing, this is a rezoning with 3 aspects to it. The first would be to rezone the site, as well as the site across the street, the existing R6 and R6 C13 districts to R7X C24 districts. So there's other lots, as you see, there where parts of them are included. Those are generally de minimis parts ranging from 5 feet to 13 feet of the site. So the real the sites where development would be expected is primarily the site itself, the applicant site at 103 Lee. In addition to that, as with all of these rezonings, there's a zoning text amendment to require mandatory inclusionary housing. That's particularly important here because, as we'll talk about, the existing R6 zoning is a residential district which allows for market rate development with no affordability and a full FAR for community facility of 4.8. So there's the option here, the inclusion of mandatory inclusionary housing basically secures affordable housing for the life of this property, which is important in most rezonings, but particularly important here where there's an existing non-contextual residential district already there. So finally, the proposed action would facilitate the development of this site with a new 52,000 square foot building and a 5.95 FAR. It would be 8 stories with mixed use commercial and residential, approximately 52 units. Under option 2, there would be 16 affordable units and 15 parking spaces would be provided. We'll talk in a little while about the appropriateness of the rezoning given some surrounding floor area ratios and floor areas of some of these buildings. Next slide. So you can see just a quick summary sheet showing the main numbers with regards to the development. As we said, this would be an 8-story plus cellar building with roughly 52,000 square feet of floor area. There would be 45,000 square feet of residential on floors 2 through 7 and a reduced 8-story, as well as ground floor commercial amounting to roughly 7,700 square feet, which is no small thing here either, because Lee Avenue, as anyone who's walked this avenue knows, is somewhat of a commercial thoroughfare here, but this property currently does not have a commercial overlay. This rezoning, in addition to creating additional residential units, would have the added benefit of allowing for ground floor commercial. The setback would be, again, story. There would be 15 parking spaces, and the number of projected dwelling units would be 52, with affordable units at either 13 or 16, depending on the option selected. Next slide. So this is a copy of the zoning map. Kind of rough to see, but you'll see it a little bit more when we go into the tax and area maps. Again, generally speaking, you can see the R6 district, which encompasses much of the area, as well as R7-1 districts to the south, M1-4, M1-2 districts to the south. So all of these districts, interestingly, from R7-1 through M1-2, allow for rather generous and high floor area ratios. So starting with the R7-1 at a 3.44, upwards to the R6 and M1-2, which allow for 4.8. The subject R7X here is a 6 FAR district. Here it's being built to roughly 5.95. So that's why you can really achieve many of these taller and larger buildings in the area. Also importantly, although the floor area ratios of many of these districts are high, there's also no contextual zoning there. So it's not like the proposed zoning, which has a cap at an R7X, so it has an absolute height limit. All of these districts allow for non-contextual zoning. So as long as you have the floor area, you can keep building up and up, which results in many cases, 5 to 6 stories and also upwards of 13 to 18 stories in and around the neighborhood. So another added benefit of this rezoning is taking an R6 out, putting an R7X in, which is an absolute cap. Next slide. I think we lost our slides. I'm going to tap dance while Fan gets that back on the board. Here we go. So next slide. And the next slide. So we've got the tax map, which shows the actual area of the rezoning. Again, the district here be mapped to 100 feet, which is 11 feet greater than the width of the property on Lee Avenue. So you can see on our side of the street that results in the development site. And across the street, next slide, you can see 100 Lee Avenue, which would be included within the rezoning area, with some of these marginal areas included as well, again, resulting in roughly 5 feet in most cases and no projected development. Next slide. So the next slide is the area map, which really well illustrates why an R7X is appropriate here. First of all, you have the intersection of 2 streets, both Lee and Keep Streets. So Lee Avenue and Keep Street, which results in a site which has good access to the site. This is one of the hallmarks of a good rezoning site. In addition, you have the BQE in front of the property, which not only is a challenge as far as development is concerned, but also results in what amounts to be an extra wide area in and around the site. In addition, you can see the R7-1 housing to the southwest, resulting in rather larger residential developments. And in and around the site itself, although it's not apparent from this slide, there are higher floor area ratios for buildings immediately adjacent to these buildings. So immediately to the south of us on lot 4, of which, again, there's maybe 11 or 12 feet, including the rezoning, that FAR is already at a 5.22. So we're adjacent to a building with a 5.22 FAR, and what we're seeking is to go to a 5.95, clearly contextual in the concept, in the scope of what's immediately in the area. Next slide. So here's some photos. You can see the site itself, as well as the surrounding area. The site, of course, being a construction site. You can also see kind of the intersection here in front of the BQE. Next slide. And so the next slide shows what is exactly shown here, which is a zoning change map. Again, to the left, you can see the existing zoning, and to the right, the proposed zoning. Importantly, you can see that there's kind of a gap where the existing site is, where there's no C13 district. So one of the nice things about the rezoning as mentioned is it allows for 7,700 square feet of commercial ground floor use of the site, which would otherwise be unavailable if the site was not rezoned. The reason that that's important here, and it's rather odd, is because for the 15 blocks to the north and south of the site, you've got a C13 overlay, which means that you basically every single other site in that 7 to 8 block radius, 15 total, has a commercial overlay, allows for as of right commercial use, and has primarily resulted in those commercial uses. Whereas the site is, you can see it's kind of like just a little nub. It's the only site that's not covered by the commercial overlay. And so this rezoning has the added benefit of creating that commercial overlay here and allowing for a continuity of commercial use on this front. Next slide. So the next slide is an illustrative rendering. And I think you can page through, Fan, to the ground floor plan. The ground floor plan and site plan demonstrates the residential building above, as well as the commercial use on the ground floor. Next slide. The next slide includes a section of the building. Right, so there's a cellar plan showing the parking spaces. Next slide. I think there's a little bit of a lag. And there we go. There are the sample unit layouts. And as you go up the building, you can keep going. You have a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units, as well as 3-bedroom unit on the top floor. There's a section that we talked about before, which shows the setback above the first story. And then I think we included some other renderings demonstrating the building typology, as well as other buildings in the area of the premises. As was also discussed, you can see 100 Lee Avenue across the street. Again, not currently contemplated to be developed, but included within the rezoning itself. It's, you know, the owner there and the property itself currently has roughly 40,000 square feet of development rights on the site and has had so for decades, but has not used them. That building right there that's existing on 100 Lee, commercial building, 1-story building, is only roughly 9,900 square feet. So despite the fact that they have had rather robust development potential, it hasn't really used any of that for since it's been zoned R6. So, while potentially they could take advantage of that, I don't think that there's any current plans to do so. Next slide. Then, in line with some of the comments from the full board, we just included some views of the area and highlighted some of the larger buildings in the area. To the left, 234 and 201 Keep Street at 7 and 6 stories respectively. 186 Cooper Street to the block to the north of the property, which maintains 7 stories. Immediately adjacent to us, 111 Lee Avenue at 6 stories. So this is 6 to 7 stories is a common building typology around here. Next slide. And then looking westward, you have some of the larger buildings, particularly along the BQE. Independence houses at 21 stories, Williams Plaza at 21 stories. Again, some rather tall buildings within the area. The next slide is merely an eagle-eye view of the area. And then the last 2 slides are dwelling unit mixes and affordable information. So the dwelling unit mix on the next page includes 21 bedrooms, 31 2-bedrooms, and 1 3-bedroom for a total of 52 bedrooms. In accordance with mandatory inclusionary housing rules, there must be roughly a 50 split at a minimum between 1 and 2 bedrooms. Here you can see this is roughly 60% or greater in terms of the bedroom mix. We're happy to get some larger bedroom sizes, not necessarily for the area, but for these type of developments generally. So, it's nice to see. The last slide, of course, includes mandatory inclusionary housing numbers, demonstrating that with option 1, you would get 13 affordable units, and with option 2, you would get 16 affordable units. And these would range from 7 1-bedroom and 6 2-bedrooms to 8 1-bedrooms and 8 2-bedrooms. Again, as well as the AMIs and the rental prices below. Again, one of the nice regards to mandatory inclusionary housing is that the unit mix of the mandatory inclusionary units must reflect the unit mix of the building generally. So you don't end up with a bunch of studios and one bedrooms for your inventory units. You end up with, to the extent that there's 1 and 2 bedroom units for the market rate units, you end up with 1 and 2 bedrooms for the affordable units. Again, permanent affordability for the life of the building, and a 50% preference given to residents of Community Board 1. With that, I think the next slide is just a rendering, and the applicant's team would be happy to answer any questions.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. This is Simon.
Yes, Simon.
Yes, I want. Can you first just again before we move on? Can you go over the exact for the market rate, the rent you'll be charging?
Yeah.
Clear.
Hi. We did look at the market rate numbers, and frankly, that's not really something that we're frequently asked. The reason is because while the applicant is tied to specifics with regards to the mandatory units, market rate units are not so tied. So I think that the 1 bedrooms were generally in the $2,000 to $2,200 range. 2 bedrooms were generally in the $2,500 range, and then 3 bedrooms in the $2,950 to $3,100.
So let's just clarification. Market rate. How many 1 bedrooms are going to be?
I will tell you that number. So with regards to the total development, there's 21 bedrooms and 31 2 bedrooms. So looking at, just as an example, option 2, which would have the largest number, you'd be looking at 12 1 bedrooms under market rate and 8 1 bedrooms under, and with the 2 bedrooms, you'd be looking at 31 2 bedrooms, which would be.
Wait, let's just clear slowly. We're jumping it
Sure.
out. Let's just talk as is. At market rate apartments.
Yes.
Before we go into the low income, let's just talk about market rate. So how?
12 1 bedrooms and 22 2 bedrooms. Sorry, 23 2 bedrooms.
22.
12 1 bedrooms and 23 2 bedrooms.
I'm sorry, we got cut off again. Can you repeat it again? I'm sorry.
12 1 bedrooms and
Right.
23 2 bedrooms.
This is as a right, or this is what you're requesting?
No, that is the proposed market rate units.
Okay, and the low income?
Low income. In that scenario, 8 1 bedrooms and 8 2 bedrooms.
Okay. Now, what's the AMI you're going to be asked for the low income?
That is not set. So under option 1, the AMI would average 60%. Under option 2, the AMI would average 80%. So that's something that's done. Both of them are mapped to allow for greater flexibility, but right now the AMIs are not set.
I just understand something. You come into this committee. Why isn't it set up? Why can't we members know what your plan is on the low
Sure.
income? Which AMI you're picking?
Sure. So the applicant maps more than one option to allow for discussion throughout ULURP as far as what AMI is chosen. So typically the council can select 1 option, 2 options, or send it back to city planning for a change in option. So that's why the applicant is allowing for additional input in the process for choosing AMIs. They're not feeding anyone, the AMIs and saying this is what it's going to be. They allow for greater flexibility throughout the process.
Okay, and just to clarify what you just said before, you said that the developer is not committing on the market rate for what kind of rental he'll be asking for. You confirm that?
That's correct.
Right. Okay. So just understand. I want to. You did a very nice presentation, but I'm first of all we have many received many calls from local residents and local community organized about this particular property. So let's just be very clear here. You know, this part of Williamsburg, for the last many years, we've tried to keep the rents at a level that reflects the resident that live local. Okay, and whoever it is, right? That's and we try to keep it that way, and we don't want it should end up to, you know, and other board members can agree to other areas of even community would want that because something like this kind of this magnitude, what you're requesting, ended up with one building after another. Owners were forced to sell out, and then you're hiking the rents, and the local residents be pushed out. That's what happened in many parts of Green Point, and it's still happening. Okay, so we're very concerned that this project, number one, you're not committing for the rent. That's number one. Second thing is, which is very important, is that the height of this building you're requesting for four more additional floors. Although when you look at when you at the rendering, it's really way out of contents from which will be finished from the other buildings. That's the second point. The third point, that when we're dealing now with a current owner who's working on this 105 Lee Avenue, well, we have no commitment on the building across the street that he's getting this building on a golden plate without he didn't putting no effort, and he's getting his lot rezoned. And we have no commitment on the low income and on the market rate. Who knows, with all the stars there, the jobs that will be lost, if he will for sure take advantage of it. And who knows what's going to, as I said before, one building after another, throwing out the tenants, hiking the commercial rents, with people losing jobs, and then also about this, who knows about the apartments he's planning to do, and he may not give no low income. So, besides, just for the record.
Yeah, I'm happy to address all 3 points.
I'm sorry. One other thing, just for the side. Currently, I wasn't able to bring it to the board, to the chair of the board. But we have collected 1,000 signatures from local residents who living around this project that they oppose to any kind of rezoning. To change the character of the Lee Avenue, of the adjacent buildings, and also regarding the issues I just mentioned before. Thank you.
Sure. So
Richard,
if I can address,
Richard,
yeah, please, Rabbi.
Richard, please. Let me just, David Niederman, thank you. Nice presentation, and I wanna just follow up and echo the sentiments that Simon has raised. And I want to ask you a question I've sent to the board and requested if they're ready, because I had the question at the board here, the previous meeting. I asked that while we are talking here, the presentation of this project as a 8-story, in the worst case, there is in the environmental assessment document is talking about the possibility of going up to 14 stories. So you said, or somebody said, no, he's not interested in that, he's not going for that. And I sent to the board to request ask the owner if he's ready to sign a restrictive deck that is not going to go above that the 8 stories that he's asking. Not that that 8 is okay, but at least to get that. So I just want to know if that was proposed to the owner, and if he's okay with that or not. First, before we go to the rest of the stuff. And the
Um,
owner is there. If you did not discuss it with him, he can say if he's ready or not.
so wait, I'm sorry, may I address Mr. Weiser's 3 points and then address that fourth point?
No, because I'll tell you, because I want to go on the other points as well. As I said before, I have issues with the 8 stories as well. And talking about context and, but let
Rabbi,
me go first to understand, to ensure if he's ready to sign a restrictive declaration that is not going to go above the 8 floors.
Rabbi, let's let Mr. Lobel first address Simon's questions
Okay, then let me,
to that.
okay,
and then
thank
get
you.
to
I'll yield to gentlemen. However, let me just add, because I think I'm going back to the question that he's asked as well. Let me just please, and I respect you tremendously, but it's a little bit disingenuous to talk about context when you are talking about the project's independence, which is way out there. Somebody knows the area, somebody doesn't know. You show the picture, and you can say, look at the picture, you see the outstanding developments, which is blocks and blocks away, have been built for 60 years ago, and since then all of these buildings have refused. Most of the area is brownstone. So bringing Jonathan Williams, please don't do that. It is not fair to the board. Let's talk what it is. There's some buildings on Lee Avenue, which is higher, but the area, the block is all small brownstones. And therefore, it is out of context totally. So the second thing, what you were talking about, the fact that we talked about prices, yes? And I thought, and I've asked that they should tell us, they submitted for financing an idea of what they're going to charge for the market rate units. And you're telling me now that you can't give it to us, and you're telling us that can be skyrocketing, as is a 2,200 for a one bedroom is totally out of par what's happening there. And I'm not saying he's a private developer, he can do it, he can do what he wants if it's as of right. But you're coming into a community, a predominantly poor community, struggling, and may want to make sure that they're not gentrified. You're coming us asking a benefit that the developer should be able to make money, and basically on the backs of the rest of the community, which is going to being charged exorbitant prices. That is totally unacceptable. And the other thing which you're talking about, the benefits that you're talking about, the mix. The mix of 1s and 2s, that's very nice. But you know how the community is bleeding. I asked, again, this is stuff that I'm not new. I asked for a market study, if it did, to take in consideration the deficit of family units. And now one is throwing in a 3-bedroom unit because most probably there's nothing more that can be done on that place, yeah, is totally not acceptable.
So can I talk now?
Yes, sure.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so number one, there was a discussion around the affordability and the prices of the units. So again, in an existing R6, you're able to generate a residential building with roughly 30 units. With the proposed R7X, you're able to generate a 52-unit building. So of the margin of the roughly plus or minus 20 to 22 units that would be generated under the rezoning, 16 of those units are affordable. So when you're looking at the project and you're talking about affordability and what's available for the local area, one of the benefits of mandatory inclusionary housing is that the average rents for a building as opposed to market rate are going to come drastically down. So all of those affordable units, again, are tied to, and just to kind of reiterate what the prices are going to be for a 60% AMI or 80% AMI. Studios, so the property doesn't really have those, 900 to 1,300. One bedrooms, 1,200 to 1,600. Two bedrooms average 1,400 to 1,900, and three bedrooms, the 3 bedrooms, 1,600 to 2,200. So for, we recently came into the community board with 79 Quay Street, and there was not really as much of a discussion about the market rate units. And one of the reasons is because there was an understanding that tying the building to mandatory inclusionary housing is going to bring the average price of a rental unit down. So, whether or not you're interested in the program or not, the truth of the matter is that this is successful, particularly here, because most of these new units that are created are going to be affordable. The second thing, which is important about building heights and the choice of zoning district, is that in the existing R6 districts, it's a non-contextual district. And you're basically, if you wanted to go up to 14 stories, you could do that under the existing R6. Importantly, you get a 45,000 square foot mixed use, really community facility building, which nobody really wants. But having said that, the building height could pretty much, reflect that. The building could be rather tall because all of those R6 properties have no height limit on them. So to put a cap on it and to make it an R7X makes it much more contextual and also limits the potential height of the building. Here, though, importantly, you've got a building which already has a building shell and which already has a foundation. And, Russ, who's the project architect, can talk to the fact that forget about any paper that anyone could sign and record against the property. The additional building height above 8 stories would not be supported by the existing building structure. So it's almost like the best you can get, because DOB or nobody would allow it to go above the existing 8 stories with this existing building structure. The last thing I'll address, which is 100 Lee Avenue across the street, and this is kind of critical, is that as with every other rezoning we don't include just the property itself, because this would lead to a charge of spot zoning. We, in conjunction with city planning, talk about other properties that would be included in the rezoning. Here, 100 Lee Avenue being across Lee Avenue and in the same general, area as the property, it makes sense for them to be included in the rezoning. But the idea that they won't be tied to affordability is false. Why is that? Because much like you would map an R7X on our property with a mandatory inclusionary housing district, you would map that same mandatory inclusionary housing district across the street. So if the owner at some point chose to redevelop the property, which again, I know Mark has spoken to him. I know that for 40 years, he's chosen not to redevelop, despite the fact that he's got a lot of floor area. But if he did choose to redevelop, he's not able to develop a market rate building anymore. He has to basically redevelop with 25 to 30% affordable units. So the discussion, I think, for Mr. Weiser about that guy's not tied to any affordability is wrong, because he's required to do it as well. So that's kind of my response to what was raised.
Richard, I have another question here. What's the FAR you're asking for now?
The proposed FAR is R7X maxes out at 6. The proposed FAR of this building is 5.95.
5.95?
Correct.
Thank you.
And currently 100 Lee Avenue, what is his zoning now?
His zoning is the same R6, so that maxes out at 4.8, fully community facility building. He would have the same, maximum FAR.
Yeah, but
just so everyone knows, I've been involved in a lot of rezonings where there's 8, 9, 10 lots included in the rezoning. And a lot of times people in the area say, okay, so those properties are going to be MIH properties as well. We like it. If there's any buildings that are built, they're going to be partially affordable. To the extent that the community board feels it's inappropriate, the community board is also, as an independent body, able to weigh in and to say to city planning, the council member, we don't think it's appropriate to include that property in the rezoning. And so, as an example, South Portland Avenue, 142 to 150, we had 8 properties included in the rezoning. It was reduced to 1, which was the applicant's property. The Kingsbridge rezoning in the Bronx we did recently, that had 7 properties included in it. It was reduced to 3. So basically while we add these properties in as a matter of our land use rationale, community boards often say, thank you, but no thank you. We're not interested in that. And that's, one of, I think, the functions of community boards in the hearing process.
So Can I talk now, please?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going back to the basics. The basics is that you are coming for a benefit. You're telling me a benefit of affordable housing, but on the other hand, you are bringing in additional market rate, and nobody knows what they're going to be charged and what the result is going to be to the hundreds and thousands and hundreds of other units on the block. You're also introducing, yes, you are right. As a R6, you can do 14 stories, but it seems that your developer did not choose to do that, okay? Because he's getting more benefit the way he does it now, okay? He does not want to commit himself to restrictive declaration. So basically what we are doing is now, will result in very expensive market rate units. The low income units that you're saying, you're asking are the smaller units, not the family units that people are dying. They live overcrowded next door. Hundreds and hundreds on the brownstones live overcrowded. So basically, thank you, but no thank you. You're coming in asking something from us. And the fact is that people chose not to build up the 14 stores and stories and not the 8. It's all mostly brownstones. And therefore, I respectfully request that recommendation to deny this application.
So we have some more people who want to.
Yes, sure.
Tesla has his hand up. Steve?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, to Simon and the rabbi's point about the density or the height issue, could the owner potentially purchase air rights for this project and go up, much higher?
Thanks for the question, Steve. So I'd say two things. First of all, just to note, the 8 stories here maxes out the floor area. So there's really no square footage which is available to go up to 14 stories here. In fact, this is basically it. There's no more feasible option here, particularly given the existing floor plates of the building. So that's kind of where that is. With regards to the question with regards to development rights, which is a great question, if the property is rezoned to an R7X, they will actually be unable to transfer any development rights to the property because as per New York City zoning, you're unable to transfer development rights across district boundaries with differing floor area ratios. So the truth of the matter is, under the existing zoning, there's the opportunity to aggregate the building, to add development rights, and to build it far taller than what's proposed. But with the rezoning, they're going to be limited to this floor area because they don't have any available options for square footage transfer.
Any other questions?
I see Katie.
Yeah, I have a question. Wait, sorry, let me put my video. Sorry for the light behind me there. So to Rabbi Niederman's point and Simon,
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yes, I'm wondering why you only have 1 3-bedroom, considering the area that building is in. And then I'd also like to know why you can't make more of a commitment to what the market rate would be and something that would be fair considering the context of the neighborhood. And then 3, I'd like to see a map. If you can bring up the map again where this building is located and with an arrow show where it's situated and what is next to it, because I understand the brownstones, which are much shorter or next to it, because I couldn't tell from the map. So,
Rich,
question.
I could share my screen. And
But
show
could we
my-
also be sure to answer about the 3-bedroom and also why can't commit to a lower
Sure.
affordable,
Um,
lower market rate? Thank you.
Sure. I think Fan's able to share her screen, Kevin, if you want.
Yeah, I just have a very high resolution aerial photography that, shows the absence of brownstones, actually.
Oh, okay, sure. Go ahead.
If I may.
So
this
while
is-
Kevin's putting that on the screen, you know, of course, what we're asking for is a rezoning, and in a rezoning, you're rezoning to a district. You're not rezoning to a specific building. Having said that, we only included 1 3-bedroom because that's just kind of the way that the building laid out, and that was just the choice of the unit types there. It's not a huge property with a lot of frontage. It's 89 feet of frontage. So the most feasible layout that was shown is the one which produced this unit mix. But importantly, because this is a good question and it's about the market rate units and what we can afford and all that. We do a lot of projects which are fully affordable buildings. We do buildings which are 100% affordable. Importantly, those buildings are subsidized. So you enter into the HPD financing project and process. You have a term sheet which talks to you about financing for the project and the levels of affordability. This building is not that. This building basically is not subsidized. And the idea, as with other MIH buildings, is that the market rate units subsidize the affordable units. So the city has basically laid out those 2 options, primarily option 1 and option 2. And so the idea for the building is that the market rate rents are essentially going to supplement and to subsidize the affordable rents in perpetuity. It would be hard for purposes of project financing and for purposes of moving forward on the project, and to actually, because we don't really care about rezoning, what we care about is a building getting built. So the idea that you're going to somehow restrict the market rate is challenging because we don't know necessarily, when the building is built and the finances, whether, the levels of affordability and how much it's going to take to provide for that affordability in perpetuity. We'd like to have the flexibility in the market rate. So the only thing I can tell you is as follows. Number 1, the market rate units here are what they are. They're what the market could bear. I went on Street Easy. I took a look at the market rate rents. It's like, there are some high market rate rents in the area. The average price per unit here, given the 25 to 30% affordability of the building, will go down. And then the second thing is, which I find to be somewhat kind of eloquent about the project itself, is that the creation of these 3.5 additional stories results in most of those new units being affordable. So, I'm not going to lie to you folks, like there's something going on. Like I've gotten a lot of emails and calls with regards to, varied interests in this building and discussions about the owner and things which, frankly, as an attorney who's been around the block for a while, this is kind of surprising and disappointing from some of the constituents. And I'm going to leave it at that. But I just would like you to take a hard look and take a look at the buildings in the area. And you can take a look at the building here, which is highlighted on the lower right portion of the screen. And Kevin's pointing it out. There's other buildings in the area that are comparable here. There's 6 to 7 buildings in the immediate area. Ours is basically 7 with a reduced 8th story. I feel that it's probably merited the additional story and height to allow for affordability here and to really provide some meaningful affordability for people in the area. Again, an as-of-right building here generates 45,000 square feet of floor area, and that building could easily span 8 stories. So this building with the additional 9,000 square feet that is being provided for residential purposes is generating upwards of 13 to 16 residential units. It's something. It's not nothing. It's basically providing for affordability. And again, 50% of those units go to CB1 residents. And so again, the applicant team is happy to address any of this.
I don't understand on the rendering whether this is what's currently there, or what you're showing what the proposed building is? What you have the arrow on, is that what's currently there or what is proposed? Do you understand my question?
So, Katie, this is Kevin Williams, the environmental consultant. So there is an as-of-right building that is partially built at the site. And what this rezoning would do is it would top out that building. So what you're seeing is an unfinished, partially constructed building waiting to be completed.
How many floors is that? How many floors?
That's 5.
5 stories.
Okay, so it would be 3 additional stories on top of where that arrow is. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
The way it's currently now, it's the same as the buildings on the left of the.
Right.
It's actually 2 stories shorter in actual height. And just to give you some context, 7 stories here, 73 feet next door, 74 feet here. And, you know, I could go on. So there are no brownstones really along the street as we know it. I understand what the rabbi's referring to. He's referring to these rear block uses, but you can see, you know, how massive this building is that you know, fronts and is in comparable height to the proposed building.
I'm sorry, I have to say, what are you talking about? Keep Street, where the street is almost all, maybe all, I don't remember. Both sides of Keep Street is brownstones.
Okay, so, but we're not talking about Keep Street. This
Yes,
fronts,
again, the majority, yes,
Lee Avenue.
Lee Avenue.
Yeah. So
Lee Avenue, what I'm saying is the Lee Avenue, but it runs into Keep Street, and Keep Street is all brownstones. And yes,
and that's a narrow street. It's a local road, and the context is different. And just from a, you know, you can see the difference, you know, particularly on the entry of the bulk of the buildings fronting Lee Avenue is certainly different than the interior. But you can also see on the interior you have 4 and 5 story mix of multifamily housing and mix of basically old row houses, and you know, on that interior block. And then when you get to the block frontage, you have 6 and 7 story buildings. You have, you know, large residential buildings, and that's the way New York City functions. Is on your local roads you have shorter buildings. On the caps where you have large commercial corridors, you have more density. And this common pattern in this neighborhood in particular, and you know, you can see it particularly punctuated along Lee Avenue. And putting a shorter building here adjacent to an open arterial roadway,
BQE.
Just one of these things that in terms of context, I mean, that's I think why the height is being requested here. Those types of tall buildings are more appropriate. You can see them, you can see here as well some of the development along the highway corridor here. So, but I hear you, Rabbi. There is a context, and that's why the building steps down in the back, and there's a rear yard, so that you have a contextual development. I did want to address, Rabbi, that you brought up earlier, and you asked why did the environmental assessment analyze 145 feet? And it's very simple. Environmental Assessment Review Division of Department of City Planning requires us to prepare something called a worst case memorandum. And that memorandum requires us to analyze a building of maximum height, whether or not it's reasonable or not. So that it's just as simple as that. And the primary reason is they want us to look at various metrics, and they do every other environmental assessment that goes in that fashion as well, even though it's absolutely impractical to build to such height, because as Rich said, there's really no benefit, in adding additional height to the building, when the FAR is maxed out at 6 floors, 7 stories, and that's basically the same case with the sort of right triangle across the street on the non-applicant site is, you can basically get 42,000 square feet. It's an 8,000 square foot lot. You do the math, 6 stories, 7 stories, 8 stories, particularly if you have to set back from the sharp triangle at the end, that's about where you're going to get. There's no benefit from like jolting up another 3 stories and hitting 145 feet. Your FAR is maxed out. So just architecturally, from a business perspective, that's not a reasonable scenario in terms of development.
Then I just ask the same question that I've asked. If it's so, he has no desire to build higher, why? And we are concerned about it. This building can tomorrow be sold. He might have the best of intentions, be sold to somebody else. And why and will come in as he came in for something else. Why can't we get a restrictive declaration on the piece of property?
Yeah,
I mean, I'll let Rich
I'll answer I'll answer the question. I've done 100 rezonings in the last 15 years. We don't have a restrictive declaration on any of them. It's not, we basically go with what has been appropriate. Sorry, one restricted declaration that the guy wasn't going to develop a hotel. I apologize. In a commercial district. But I think the idea here is that a restricted declaration matters. It's basically, it's looked at for purposes of putting the project forward, for purposes of getting a lender. It's like, it's meaningful. I really would probably just sit on the fact that this guy has no more floor area left. And again, Russ is on the phone with us. He can talk about the fact that the existing foundations don't support you going up that much. He's not interested in it. He's basically interested in this building and this floor area and this height. So I just don't think it's appropriate here.
But this is Simon. Can I say something also? Hello?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I just remembered at the last meeting, someone brought up the question: have the owner, the developer, reached out to any low-income housing or any local agency? That since the last meeting, has he reached out to any local organization that does housing?
Right. So there has to be a nonprofit associated with the project. Why is that?
But since the last meeting, I'll just get answer, please.
Right.
You were asked this at the last general full board meeting. Has you reached out the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Yes or no?
No, and the reason is because we would typically reach out to one of several organizations, Impact, St. Nick's, etc. But typically, what we do is we ask for the council member input on that, and then we
also just for the record, I think UJO is also has many projects that they're doing low income housing. For the record,
I didn't know. Are they an administrative agent like HPD approved?
Yes, we have been. Yes, we administrators. We have not been doing that, but that's irrelevant. What does that have to do? With being an administrative agent, yes. What does that have to do with common in community that is dealing with housing issues on a daily basis, and not come and say, I want to do a project. I want to hear what you have to say, what the local community has to say. What does that have to do with administrative agent? Administrative agent is part of HED. We have been administrative agent lately, but that building was sold. But yes, we have been approved as an administrator. But that has nothing to do with coming to a community and speaking to people who are dealing on a daily basis with housing issues. Has nothing to do with being an administrative agent or not. No, basically get the feel, the pulse. What does the community need? What type of housing? And come into a discussion what he wants to do, what the community wants to do, that the community should have a benefit of added traffic. I mean, I'm not going to go in on the details, but because where's going to be the parking? Where are the cars going to come out? How is it going to deal with the continuous traffic that goes on? Come in Williamsburg between 8 a.m. and 10 come between 3 and 5, you'll see what's going on. So so we are going to deal with the burden that this developer is bringing to us. So it behooves, and that's done always, that you come into community, you come to the local agency. And yes, Simon, thanks for reminding me. Yes, I asked the question. And again, you came back to me that you spoke to the administrative agent. I said, it has nothing to do, it's not dealing with housing issues, and it's irrelevant to this process. So Simon, you are right.
So the administrating agent, I apologize, the administrating agent conversation is that much as the affordable units are required by law, the administrating agent is required by law. So this building could not be built without designation of a nonprofit to administer the affordable units. That's basically the only conversation.
Okay,
I mean, the other
fine.
thing
So
with
basically,
regards to building
again,
that
I'm just trying
the
to say,
45,000 square foot community facility building, which can be built. Kevin is required to look at traffic and parking issues for as of right, no action scenarios. And, with regards to 45,000 square feet of medical office, Kevin, I mean, you could probably talk about this more eloquently than I can, but I think that the traffic issues with regards to 51, 52 unit residential building don't even compare. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, Rabbi, you know your neighborhood better than anybody here, but I'll just share some statistics for the rest of the board. So the 2020 census identifies very unique journey to work information. First of all, 75% of the households in this neighborhood don't even own a car in this census tract. Of those that, in terms of commuting to work, 24% drive, which basically correlates perfectly with the 75% car ownership. 51% of people in this census tract walk to work. 21% take public transportation, 4% work from home. And so if we were to impute that 25%, to the number of units, the parking, can accommodate that. And in addition, in terms of the commercial, everything on this corridor is local retail and does not have parking, so you don't want to supply parking where it's not needed. This is a walking street, for locals to walk to. So you don't want to induce, traffic to come to local bodegas and local uses, boutique retail and those sorts of things. And those, and by any standard, and particularly in the Williams Greenpoint area, it's a very, very walk-oriented, transit-oriented community, and one where you really don't want to engender more car traffic. In addition, there are 3 garages within a half-mile walk if somebody so chooses to add their own personal vehicle to the building. But my understanding from Mr. Spitzer is this is intended to serve local young families that can't afford a car. That's the market that he's going for, to support people in the community and to assist with the housing capacity issues that you identified, so people can go and start up a family, have their first child, be close to transit, and so that is the concept. And so this notion that it's going to make a traffic Armageddon with 52 units is simply not true. This doesn't even move the needle on traffic in terms of traffic analysis in New York City. I deal with rezonings that are 500, 600, 700 units. I've done many of them. I've been before this community board for multiple rezonings. There's never been a question about the parking supply on those rezonings. It's interesting that there's a question about 52 units requiring parking when the applicant is already requiring more than enough parking to accommodate the average parking car ownership in the area. So that's really all I would like to cover on that.
Chair.
We will have to move this along. We have to stop by 9 o'clock.
Okay, so Chair, can I just say something, Simon?
Wait, because I see Steve. I don't know, Steve Chess. I don't know if your hand is up for a new question or if that's
a new question.
Before. Okay, then let Steve, please.
Yeah, with as of right, could the project utilize voluntary inclusionary housing and get more floor area through that?
They could. They could get more residential floor area through voluntary inclusion.
Simon, you had another.
Yeah. So we heard
I
from
apologize.
from
It's
yeah.
IHDA. I apologize. The project architect correct me on 2 points. First of all, it's not IHDA. So Steve, there's no additional floor area for inclusionary. And he also mentioned that that the way that the property is built with the exit stairs, they wouldn't be able to get any more spread on the floor plates. So they would cap out here at 8 stories, which is what we suspected. But anyway, sorry, please.
Okay.
Just want
So
to say one thing, clarify why I asked about parking, because I saw parking. It's not that because I saw I thought I saw the parking requirements. I didn't look into it before because that was not on my mind. Just saw it, I felt that area, and especially that corner, is a very heavy traffic area. Okay, I'm done on this issue.
okay. So Chair.
Yes.
Chair. Okay. So all the members, including the Rabbi, Katie, and Steve, and there's many questions and many concerns about this project, of the market rate, and the issue of 100 Lee Avenue, the rates of the market rate apartments, the AMI, all these issues that put all together here, and the owner not willing to sign the declaration. And it was clear that we want to keep our neighborhood the way it is. We do not want, clearly, we do not want it should end up like what's happening in the Greenpoint, one building after another, and this is going to start once this falls for all. And basically, the local community is not benefiting and not going to benefit out of this rezoning. So, and the Rabbi had mentioned before to vote this motion down, and I just want to carry on this. And I think we have a motion on the floor, and with all the reasons that were brought up, plus that the issue just came up, that he has not reached out to any low-income community with low-income housing organization in the local community. All these reasons, the many that I think we should. I think there's a motion on the floor to vote this application down as a no, with all the reasons that were brought up.
If we vote, remember, if we're going to vote no on something, we need to specify, the motion needs to specify specifically what the conditions are, what the reasons are. So,
okay, so we
have
could,
anything they want to discuss before we talk about a motion?
Yeah, can I just throw something out, is that as of right, they would just build 100% market rate housing, but with rezoning, you would get 13 or 16 units of affordable housing. So just something to consider.
I will say that that was something that was brought up about River Ring. If the people in the community did not want the building that was, I guess, upwards of 60 some odd floors, and many people felt that the fact that there were going to be affordable units, that was enough to vote yes with conditions rather than no. Rabbi, you agreed with that, so we'll just mention that. Not sure that we're being consistent here, but in any case, if there's a motion, please specify what the motion and what the reasons are for voting no.
Okay, so the first issue is that the main issue that he's not willing to commit for restricted declaration of not building above the requested height. The second issue is he's not willing to commit for the market rate, what he will be charging for the market rate. The third issue is is that
I just
we
want a friendly amendment. It's not to go, do not want to specify, yes, what the market rate is going to be. Next, go ahead.
the third issue is that if we were to rezone this property, this would be just this property. This would not cover 100 Lee Avenue because of the issue that we have no control of the plans of what will be developed to that property. And then we had another issue of it hasn't reached out to any or hasn't reached out since this interception of this project, which is going for a long time, has reached out to any low-income housing agency that deals with low-income housing. And also the issue what Katie brought up about that the unit sizes don't reflect the need of the direct local community. There's only 1 3-bedroom, and this is clear. Any project that is built now, any part of community would want. There is many more 3-bedroom apartments. This is also a reason why we should deny this motion. And if there are ones to mention any other
friendly amendment to what you said, not reaching out to agencies that deal with low-income housing, and not reaching out to anybody in the community, and basically disregarding the concerns and the needs. Could have been when he sat at the table and said, we would say, look, we or somebody competent dealing with community needs would say, do X, Y, or Z, and come up with something that is acceptable, because we might have been persuaded that this is not going to gentrify the area. At this point, we feel that others will follow, and the heights in the community will come up. New and higher density will occur at the place where density is a very big issue.
The final point is that the final point is that the height of the building is way out of character, will be way out of character of the adjacent and all buildings along Lee Avenue and directly around this area. Once finished, this will be way because it's on a hill. The next building is slanting. It's not so way out of content. This building will be out of context. This is my all these points. Thank you.
Del, the applicants told me that there's some people on the call from the community who would like to speak.
Okay, so
there's a motion on the table.
I just wanted to give
everyone. Well, there's a motion on the table. We have to have the motion.
Wait a minute. We don't just cut off people. I didn't realize there were other people who wanted to speak, and it hasn't been seconded yet. But Jerry, is there? Can you give me some procedural guidance here?
Yeah, I guess as you've stated, the motion has yet to be seconded. If there's community residents that'd like to speak, I guess you should hear them.
I agree.
Sure, I'm okay with that. Everybody speak his mind.
Jerry, do you know who those people are?
Hello, can I speak up here? Hello?
I actually don't. Nobody pre-registered to speak for this meeting, Del.
I think the applicant was going to say something, and then maybe he'd be able to introduce other people who wanted to talk.
Hello, am I on?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Mark Spitzer. I am the applicant in this application. I've been quiet and on the wayside because I wanted to hear everybody else out first before I had an opportunity to speak. I'm a little under the weather, so it's hard for me to speak, but I will do my best. I was born and raised in Williamsburg. I've been living there for 30 years. My father lived there until his death at the age of 94, which was about 14 years ago. I have family in Williamsburg to this very day. I know the market very, very well. I studied the market way before I started that. In fact, the very first person I engaged in conversation to talk about this building was Mr. Rabbi Niederman. And I had every effort to speak to him. I had a meeting with him and sit down with him. This building was geared for growing families. There is every single day new engagements, new people getting married. There's weddings, engagements. They have nowhere to live. This building is specifically geared for growing couples, growing families. And that is what it is geared to. Now, on the other hand, Mr. What is his name again? I forgot his name. Weiser has personally come over to me and has made some remarks to me and was not in favor of this project from day one. I'm not going to get into detail on public forum, but there were a lot of irregularities that have taken place. I don't know what his agenda is, but I'm not going to be put over into a corner for some idiotic reason. The building is not out of context and is almost as high as the building next door. There is nothing that we're doing wrong. In fact, we're helping the community. We're adding, out of 23 additional apartments, 16 are going to affordable. And the intention is not to gouge the community. We're perfectly in line with the market rate of the other apartments in the vicinity. These are brand new, nice apartments to be fitting to people who are newly starting out in their lives. That is the intention of this building. We're not attempting to sly anybody, put somebody on the side, disregard anybody. I've spoken to members of the community. The community is so large, there are so many different factions, but I've addressed my immediate neighbors who are next door, the Spinky community, the Satmar community across, members of the authority all over the place. We're not slying anybody. The intent is to make as many people as happy as you can. You can't make everybody happy all the time, but we're certainly making an attempt to. So this is pure malarkey of trying to whitewash something that is a benefit to everybody involved. I apologize for being a little bit drastic, but this is really what's happening. I have no intention of hurting anybody, and I have no problem with capping the building at 8 feet. You can't, it's not even with the new rezoning, you can't even go more than 7.5 stories to begin with. My intention was to make a community center on the 5th floor to accommodate people on the Shabbos, not to have to walk up and down flights of stairs. So for him to tell me that I'm not trying to take it to regard the community is totally out of line and totally uncalled for. I apologize for getting a little bit loud about this, but it's a little bit frustrating when people are lying to your face.
I want to say one thing, David Niederman. We spoke.
Rabbi, I'd like to speak. Mr. Spitzer, are you saying that you would, you have no problem agreeing to cap the building?
I have no problem. I have no problem whatsoever capping it at 8 feet.
Okay. My objection, that was my main objection to that, and I said that at the meeting.
Okay, so that's, okay. So now we have a commitment to cap the building at 8 stories.
I mean, a restrictive declaration.
If that is the only issue, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, but you haven't why aren't you willing to commit if you really mean the benefit to the community? That was always my concern, and still my concern. Why aren't you willing to commit to the local price of the price for the market rate apartment?
One at a time, please. One at a time.
So I'm asking, Mr. Spitzer, fine, and I take your words very sincere, fine, but why aren't you? We'll be asking you for months and years now. What is your commitment for the market rate, for the price of the market rate apartments? And the previous general meeting, the community board, it sounded you had set some kind of price. That sounded like. But at this point, if you really mean the benefit of the local community, why aren't you willing to say 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, what's going to cost? I don't understand. If that's your
Mr. Simon, if I can call you that, I don't think this is an area of your expertise, but let me put it to you pointedly. A business has to make sense. We are trying to balance a building that should make fiscal sense and accommodate the community. I can only.
So if you mean the benefit of the community, so say the price.
Please,
Simon, let
my
the gentleman finish his answer, please.
Let me finish my answer.
I'm sorry.
A building can only support what the market will pay. It is not up to me. If the market decides to pay me $1,000 a month, that's all I can get. I don't make the market price. It has to be determined by what the area is willing or can support. I can't price a market for $5,000. I can say anything I want to. Besides, the market rate is not in this part of this entire meeting. We aren't talking about the additional amount. You are not subject to what the market is. I'd love to get whatever I can get that's workable. I'm trying to balance out a building that is very expensive to build. I don't know if you know anything about construction, but the costs have gone through the roof. We're talking about 5 times for general materials costs, 5 times, and it goes up every day. In order to make something happen, I'm giving you something back. In fact, on a balance of what I'm giving you a huge percentage in return for what I'm getting. I'm giving you 16 out of 23 apartments affordable. That's a tremendous in your favor. You shouldn't be complaining. You should be happy. Instead of crying or making trouble and trying to be in my way for the stupidest reasons, nothing that makes any logistical sense. You should be saying thank you, Mr. Spencer, because that's what I'm trying to do. I was born and raised in that community. I know what it means to live with 3 people or 5 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. That's how I grew up. I lived on Penn Street my entire life. So
Okay,
please,
we're going to move on now because we have to move.
Okay,
We have another
okay,
application.
okay.
We're going to move on to other people in the community who have requested to speak. Are there other people here from the community who are?
I think they had a problem logging on. That's what I think they had. I don't know if they actually made it on or not.
I will mention that what Steve Chesler did mention, which is if they build as of right, they won't have to put in any affordable units. But in any case, I guess if we're not, there's no one from the community, then I can. Katie, I think you want to add something, but it has to be brief. We've got to move on.
Yeah, I just want to add that the fact is that the market rate will, these developers obviously will make a profit, probably quite a handy profit. So, I mean, that's what I'm assuming. And the shame is that the market rate probably will be gathering young professionals. It's not enough. It's not a family-oriented, possibility. For the most part, which is what we're seeing all over the city. And so I think that that's a really hard thing, especially in the context of this community and other communities too. I just also want to point out in terms of procedure, 9 o'clock is, I believe, I listened to the executive, with all respect, executive board meeting that was talking about the time limit, and it was not a hard and fast 9 o'clock as I understand.
It is a hard and fast. The chair corrected herself, and she made an announcement that it is hard and fast.
So if the meeting can't go past 9 o'clock?
I understood that the committee meeting could go up to 10 p.m.
Well, then.
Because I raised that it was about the SLA review committee.
Well, Alice said that she corrected herself. Jerry, am I wrong? My last recollection was that she said that she made a mistake saying.
I think we should stick to the agenda. We're wasting time.
So it's going to end at 9 o'clock. There's no reason to delay.
That's not what the executive committee voted on. I have to say that.
Then you can bring that up or whatever. But I have been given Jerry. Is it changed? It's my understanding it's 9 o'clock. We've been discussing that at one meeting after another.
Oh, by the way, I identified one of the gentlemen who wanted to speak. His name is Charles Kraus. I believe he's on the call.
Okay. Jerry, am I wrong? It's my understanding that 9 o'clock was the limit, was the time.
That was my understanding also.
I know that there was several of us thought that it was 10, and then my recollection is that the chair said that that was an error. She corrected herself and stated that it was 9 p.m.
I'm sorry, last thing said, the executive committee has to vote on that, and that's not what they voted on. I listened
Katie, I'm not going to argue with you on this. We have been given our marching orders to end at 9 p.m.
If
And I
if we
don't,
stick to the agenda, it's
Mr. Kraus is ready, Madam Chair.
7:50. We can make it for 9 and finish the meeting.
there's no reason to have this go on beyond 9 o'clock tonight, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, Mr. Kraus?
Go ahead, Mr. Kraus.
Yeah, hello?
We can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, Mr.
Hi,
Kraus?
Charles, we can hear you.
Yes, hi, do you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah, hi. Hi, everyone. I have a store on Lee Avenue, and I know the developer well, and he comes into the store, and there's lots of my customers when they come in, they say that they need housing, a way to live. So I think that the community is going to benefit of the rezoning. Hello?
yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
Yes, I think that the community needs like housing. They need like bigger. I think that this is like the rezoning, that it should be like more families, that they should have and where to live, right?
A mistake, David.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kraus.
Yeah, but
Okay, is this the end of the people who are to speak? Right, so I think we can proceed now. Now,
So we have
there is the motion that's on the floor, that as one of the reasons that there is no commitment to or a declaration to cap the height of the building at 8 stories, but the developer has now notified us that he would be willing to make that commitment and have the restrictive declaration.
Okay, but just this is Simon again. My motion is still to deny the application because besides the reason, many other reasons I mentioned, which was the market rate, which Katie very accurately she said, is that yes, this is not going to cater for the local who live local around this project, because as the developer himself said, it has to make sense, and because of the price of construction, we have no guarantee, and he's not willing to commit to a price for the fair market rate. So my motion is still on the table.
Okay, I will mention that I've never seen a developer have to make a commitment to exactly what the market rate prices will be. Other than something that we've objected.
Hello.
We can put it into the, if the committee votes to in favor of your motion, fine, but I was trying to make sure that our motions are motions that will hold water. Someone else is trying to speak.
Yeah, hi. Can I speak now?
Who is this, please?
Hi, my name is Kirsty. I have a store right across of the new development. I know Mr. Spitzer since the last almost 3 years, and since he started digging, I started talking to him, and all he wants was to do rentals for the community people, to help out, to make sure that always he was telling me he wants to make sure that the young families who are getting married, they should have a place where to live. And that's all I was hearing about. And all he wanted is the stores downstairs, that people should be able to have stores in the area. Now,
Can you identify yourself and which store you're talking about, please? I'm sorry, this is Simon. What's your name and what's the name of your store, please?
I'm not willing to say my name because of you. I'm sorry to say that, Mr. Simon. I don't know what your agenda is, but you see, I was on the line for the past hour. I had no idea exactly what's going on. Mr. Spitzer called me saying that he has an issue, and since I'm a neighbor, I should call in. And I called in, I listened in, and all I heard was, Mr. Simon, you were being not so polite because, first of all, I'm not a developer, so I don't know pricing, but all I know is that the market wants as a market. It's not one developer that's not saying, because of how it's going on in today's days with the prices going up every day like crazy, which we all see and we all know. So he cannot commit to a price now when he doesn't know what the market is going to be, and he does not know how much the material is going to cost him, and how much he's going to pay for labor, and how much time he's going to have to wait until every few days I see another stop work order on another issue. Everything costs money, and he has to make money on the project. But he's the most nicest developer I've seen in the area, and he's not here to rip off people. And if he wants to do more apartments, it's just best for us, because we're gonna have more customers coming in instead of all the people moving to Cascade and to the triangle over there on the Wallabout, and we don't have working customers to keep up our stores. Yeah, we have problems to keep up our stores to make money in order to stay in business. And yeah, more apartments will mean more customers for me. And yeah, we can use that. We can use the apartments, and we can use the customers. And Mr. Spitzer is not here to rip off the people. All he wants a little affordable housing, and you keep denying it because of what? I don't know. I wasn't involved in the whole thing. I was listening the past hour quietly, and I was like, what's going on? Why do you deny it when this person, all he wants to do is help us? And he's not some weird guy coming out of nowhere. When I met him, I started talking to him. He's such a nice person, and we were talking about when he grew up, where he lived, and where he went to school. He is one of the community, and all he wants to do is help us. So yeah, I think he should get it. Yeah, we can use more people like Mr. Spitzer. Why give him a hard time? Why give him a hard time when all he wants is to help us? Yeah, we can use the apartments, and he cannot control the market. The market is not up to him. There's more developers in Williamsburg that charge more the price, and that's what brings up the market. It's not up to him what the market is going to be.
All right, thank you. So, I think is that the total of the people who want to speak. So, is it a motion for yes with conditions or no with conditions? I know the rabbi felt that it was, with the river rings, the rabbi felt that it was better to have yes with conditions. I don't know if he still feels that way.
Just telling you the idea.
So we had a motion, but it hasn't been seconded. And again, I will just mention that one of the reasons for voting no is now no longer an issue, because the developer is willing to commit to capping the building at 8 stories.
Okay.
I recommend continuing to include that as a condition, just to make sure it's passed up the food chain and is, to the borough president, city planning, et cetera.
Well, I think that would make more sense if we were voting yes with conditions, because it kind of doesn't, to me, it looks kind of disingenuous if we vote no, because he won't commit when he has agreed to commit.
Chair?
Yes.
Okay, I'm willing to change my my motion to yes with conditions.
Okay.
I second the motion. But I don't know if I can as a non-board member.
Uh,
I will
would
second
be-
the motion.
Who is that?
This is Maria Vieira.
Okay, so this is yes with those conditions.
Del, can you reread the conditions, please?
Yes, with the condition that the developer will agree to a restrictive declaration on capping the number of floors to 8. That he will specify the market rate rents. That the rezoning would only include the one property and not property across the street, not 100 Lee.
Right.
That there would be outreach to local nonprofit organizations and to the community. That I guess building out of context is out of it again. So, and then I don't know about the 3-bedroom unit. Are we insisting that there be more than one 3-bedroom unit?
Can I still say something?
Sure.
That I would like, as I said before, that was a major thing that my concern, which is the declaration, but also then that the number of units should be not more than presented. In other words, nothing should happen, shouldn't go to somebody again. This can be flipped or sold to somebody else. Want to make sure that at least there are 1s and 2s in there and does not become 1s and studios. So like this, if you have that in the restrictive declaration, then this is what Mr. Spitzer is saying that he wants. Let it stay so.
Okay.
To be added to the.
So that would mean that we would take out anything about the 3-bedroom units, and we would have to then leave the number of the units that presented will stay the same.
Yes, Simon, I don't know what your feeling is, but my feeling is.
Yes, I agree, Rabbi. Yes, I agree with that.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Okay.
let's have a vote on that. Jerry, do you want to call the roll call?
If you like, of course.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Del, can I just make one clarification as the applicant? Was the rabbi's point that it would not exceed the current number of units? I didn't know that it was exactly the same. Just wouldn't go up.
Well, I think he doesn't want, I see, does that
What's
satisfy
that?
Rabbi, that the number of units would stay the same?
Yes.
The number of units presented stay the
We
same.
don't want more 1s or studios. So
Right.
therefore.
So if it went down, that would be okay, but it's just that it wouldn't go up.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so the number of units would not be increased.
Correct.
Would not.
Can I say something? Sorry, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Hello?
I think we're voting now. We have to vote.
I just want to put something out there. I have no intention of putting any studios in there. It is not to my benefit. I just want to get it out there. I specifically instructed the architect not to put any studios. So
Okay,
please, let's not trump up a hill that we're all in agreement with.
That is reassuring. Thank you. But let's vote now.
Thank you. But somebody else could buy it and do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
That's not my intention, okay? I don't want to.
We are voting now. We cannot hear anything more. That's it. Jerry, please call the vote.
Del Teague,
Yes.
Maria Vieira,
Yes.
Trina McKeever,
Abstain.
Stephen Chesler,
Yes.
Erin Drinkwater,
Yes.
Moisha Indig, Hosanna Kaminsky. Hosanna?
Jerry?
Yes. How do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Abraham Leibovitz,
Yes, with conditions.
Sante Michelli,
Yes.
Rabbi Niederman,
Yes.
Karen Nieves, Isaac Sofer,
Yes.
Robert Solano, Stephen Weidberg,
Yes.
William Vega, William Vega,
Abstain.
Simon Weiser,
Yes.
Michael Andrews,
Yes.
Keith Berger,
Yes.
Corey Canton,
Yes.
Michael Kowachka,
Yes.
Katie Napolitarski,
Yes.
Allison Stone, Allison Stone, (16 yes, 0 no, 2 abstention, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the
Thanks, everyone.
second application, which is a landmarks application. And so Trina, you're gonna take the
Yeah.
board here.
Okay, is there someone here from 1097 Lorimer that wants to give their presentation?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi. Can you identify yourself? So it's Nicholas Brown. Jerry, can you give him the reins?
Hi.
It's self-serve, Trina, at the bottom of the screen.
Okay, yeah, I'll take over. So hold on 1 second.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm the architect working with the owners at 1097 Lorimer Street. It's a landmark property. We're doing some interior and exterior renovations. We've been in conversations with landmarks, and there's one window that we're talking about enlarging in the rear, and it has some visibility from public streets. So that's what I'm here to review. So this is just the historic context, the Greenpoint Historic District, showing the location 1097 Lorimer Street. It's Lorimer between Manhattan and Guernsey Street. This is the tax photo from 1940s again.
No, it's Lorimer between Collier and Noble.
Correct, sorry. Again, this is the street view from Lorimer Street. Aerial view, and then some block plan view locations, which you'll see on the other slide. So this arrow 1 is showing the street view, and then there's photos here for Kaler Street.
Collier.
Collier Street, thank you for correcting me. From Collier Street, you can see 1097 Lorimer located here. The window in question is located on the first floor. It's partially viewed from Collier Street. And then Guernsey Street, view 3 is pretty clearly viewed. The window in question is here. Again, this is just a close-up of the block plan showing the project location, distance to Collier Street. And then another photo for context. This is the zoning diagram, and then the window here, which is located in the kitchen, viewing that to the back garden. So here we have the existing rear elevation on the right and the proposed rear elevation on the left. So the window at the kitchen is located here, and then we're proposing a larger window to allow more light into the kitchen, which is a little bit underlit in the current situation. We're working to keep with the existing context. As you'll see in subsequent photos, the lintel and sill of the window will still be blue stone to match what's existing there. Other windows that have already been approved by landmarks, we're restoring the existing window sill heights on the other floor. But really the question is this window here that we're looking at. So this is the elevation and detail of the window. It's a Marvin all wood window to work with landmarks. It's a slider window. Between the design and the client's needs, we wanted to keep as much visibility as possible, but still, not have it just be one big picture window, to try to keep a little bit more of the partitioning of the window and the context. And again, in this detail, you can kind of see the new window heads and sills will be the blue stone to match with the existing. So here are some detailed photos of the rear elevation. The existing window in question is here. It was very difficult to get a full view of the rear facade, so hopefully this helps illustrate what we're looking at. So again, like the new windows head and sill will be the blue stone as well, to help blend it in with the existing facade. That's pretty much the presentation. That's what we're here to review. So I can open up to any questions.
So, so it's strictly the window. That's all.
It's strictly the window. There's other stuff we're doing, but everything else is available to be approved at a staff level. The front, the front facade, we're replacing the windows, but we're keeping all the original details. So all that. The only thing they couldn't approve at a staff level was this window because of the visibility. So again, like I'll go back to the street views. Like it's mainly like this view on Guernsey Street, where since it is fully visible to the public, we have to present it and get feedback. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an issue. So that's kind of what we're here to talk about.
I know it's too bad because that row of the row of houses, yours is the one house that is clearly visible. I live 3 doors down at the corner of Guernsey and Oak, and so I know this area very well, this view very well, and it's clear that a big picture window right there would really not be contextual with the back of the building. Do other committee members have more to, but it seems like a lot of what you're doing is so contextual, whereas this window.
Yeah, we're trying to do as much as we can to restore like this upper window. Like there's a bathroom here now, which is going to become a bedroom. So we're going to lower the windows. We're going to restore that lower windowsill on the side elevation of that little recess area. Again, there's a couple that are raised. We're lowering those. So we're doing our efforts to make it restore the contextual nature back to it. There's a wood deck that takes up the whole rear yard. We're getting rid of that and putting in a zoning approved, steel deck with the proper 10-foot rear yard setback and all that. So we're doing all these efforts. And then the one question is, because of this visibility, we really want to make this larger window to help, add a lot more natural light to that kitchen. But because of the visibility, we're going to have to present it and get feedback.
Do other committee members want to weigh in?
If you go back to the diagram, the slide that has the diagram.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Do we need a vote on this today, or we just the presentation?
We do need a vote on it.
We are voting?
Yes, we're voting.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, I'm waiting. Sorry.
Is this the sheet one, the plan diagram? Is that what was requested?
The one of this paned window in the back.
Oh, the window details or the elevation? This one?
This is the window details. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, maybe the one that's further back, so we can see in the context of
before and after.
That one, yeah. And so with the wood frame, there would be some wood frame there, and it would be painted that hunter green that you referred to. And
exactly, yeah. So this, and again, like the wood frame, all the other windows, Landmarks is approving at a staff level. So this is going to follow suit. It's going to be an all wood window, painted hunter green. That's more of a historic color. Everything now is kind of white, and it kind of pops out more. So this will help, give it a little bit more of its historic feel to it. Yeah.
And so the middle part of that pane, the frame will be metal, and what color will be black?
It's all wood. So the middle part is fixed. It's a slider window. So these two smaller panels slide, which you can kind of see in this vision here. So essentially this is a fixed window, and then these two slide.
Where do they slide to? I don't understand.
They slide over the center. So like you see the arrows, like this section here slides towards the center, and the same thing with that. So they both slide into the middle.
So you can open up air on the two sides.
Yeah, so you have fresh air here, which helps with the light and air calculations for the kitchen. And then the center one is fixed.
Has Landmarks used this type of window in other, have they approved it in other building projects?
I have not used this one on the Landmarks before. They are looking at this window as well. I feel like the compromise would be, I mean, obviously the owners want to get this because it allows more light. The other fallback would be to do like 2 double hung windows, but then you have that big heavy line right in the center at the mullion. So this allows for still to have partitions to the window composition, but not have that big heavy line right in the center. So this is kind of what we're proposing, and we would like to see. Obviously, if Landmarks has an issue with it, then we might have to look at some other window configurations. But right now, this is kind of the goal for the design.
Do you have a color rendering of it?
I do not know.
Is Sante still with us? I know that he's got some thoughts on it.
No, I'm here. I'm wondering, definitely the lowering of the 2/2 window above, it seems in line, is actually mirror the height of the window of the building next door. But this feels a little bit strange, a little an anomaly, really not contextual with this proportion of the 2/2 windows we see all over in these backyards. And I have a question. You said about the deck. Is the current deck was installed without receiving approval from DOB?
Yeah, no, DOB would never approve. That's an all wood deck, which is not ever approved. And essentially, the previous owner had built it almost. I mean, it's so the location of this project it's close enough to the corner that you don't need it doesn't have the 30-foot required rear yard. At this location is a 10-foot required yard. So essentially we're rebuilding here to regain the required rear yard setback, this 10 feet, which reduces the deck to 5
feet.
10.
Yeah.
It's a little shallow, but I mean, again, we have to work with the existing zoning, and the existing deck, the wood deck, pretty much came all the way out to the rear property line.
Sure, and you're not so you're not required to go to a public hearing because there is visibility also. I saw you put a picture from Collier view, but you and definitely was fine for the window, but there was a prior application 1013. What is this? Sorry. 2 building down, they came in 2016, 2017. 1093, sorry. So, and 1093 that come originally there, and the deck is actually recessed, is inset, is still, of course, because it is a requirement if you are 3 feet from the property line to be a steel structure. So I'm assuming you're doing a steel structure there.
Yes.
But I'm wondering, really the fact that there is still visibility from both from Guernsey Street and visibility definitely because he project out, even if it is within zoning resolution, by reducing to 5 feet versus the not permitted one that is there now. Could you?
I'm not sure I followed the question.
Yeah,
we are going to be presenting this in the Landmarks and Commission and a public hearing, if that's the question. But we have to present to you first.
Yeah, but are you presenting the deck too? But you said that the deck was a staff level.
Yeah, the deck, they didn't bring that up as a concern. The main thing, the one thing that this Landmarks said that they couldn't approve on a staff level is the window. So that's what we're here to review.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I was surprised because normally when there is such a visibility for a deck and then there is a 3 feet requirement from the property line, and I see that.
It's a steel deck, so it's a non-combustible deck, so there's no issue with going to the property.
Okay, that's it for now.
The point I want to make is our committee has often, even though Landmarks trumps us and votes against it, we've tried to stay contextual to what belongs in the landmark district. And because this window would be so clearly visible from Guernsey Street, I tend to not find it, I tend to think that our committee and the board should disapprove it and then let Landmarks do what they do. But if we approve it, it just sort of says it goes against what our committee has, how our committee has stood for the landmark district in the past. And so I would tend to ask the board to disapprove it and to look for a window more in line with what the original window would have been or is.
Trina, this is Dell.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And also I wish we would have had well, I probably would agree with you even if we had a picture and found and didn't, have a problem with what this looks like, but I'm really wondering how this will look once these side panels are closed in. I don't know, but even if we decided we loved it, I think it's not contextual.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
I have a comment I'd like to make.
Please.
Sorry, I have a mouthful here. I understand about the precedent, but I think that also, voting no on everything can also, kind of set a tone. And it might be worthwhile to sometimes vote yes if we feel that accordingly. I don't feel that anybody looking down at this building is going to say, oh, wow, that's out of context. I just don't think it's going to come to people's eye that much. That's what I feel that. And also, I know people who have, brownstones in the area, buildings in the area, in the landmark area, who do have large, out of
I think the house next door does, but this one is so clearly visible, Katie, from Guernsey Street. You look right at it. What you see right here is the window, and it's so, which is what Landmarks is asking. It's viewpoints, it's view sheds, and this one, the non-contextual window would be right in the view shed.
Right. Is it on this, where we're looking at the left-hand picture there, or would it be the second window down right there?
Yeah.
So I understand and I respect what you're saying. It's just that I personally, it wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't walk down the street and it would look over and it would bother me.
It's not about bothering, it's about keeping the integrity of the historical district. It's not about a person, whether it bothers them, it's really trying to keep, I mean, that's why it's designated the historic district. It's trying to keep it together.
And it's so small that we don't have much. So every little alteration, we already have very massive alteration. Sometimes a big battle is just, it's not limiting anything. You still have a window. Actually, I will support the lowering of the window above to enlarge that. But this is just a completely different configuration. Even sliding is not historical. We see many frame house. It's a very classical configuration and see another part. So I don't think it beautify. It's just a convenience to change the, adding more lights, making a bigger window. But if I can share something briefly, because I have actually a clearer picture to give a sense, probably. Maybe, let me see.
Oh, I'm sorry, what was the question?
I think Sante wants to share his screen.
Oh, okay. Do I have to stop sharing to do that?
Maybe try to stop sharing for a second. Sorry, I never share anything through WebEx. Let me see.
I mean, again, like the goal for this is obviously the larger window, and we understand the visibility and how the sliding window is definitely a little bit different than the existing context. So if we go back and we look at it and do as two double hung windows and still to get the larger opening, we would be willing to definitely do a compromise in that way.
Would the two double hung be together so you'd have the same size opening?
Which definitely has historic context in the area and just in general with landmark buildings. And again, like if this wasn't so visible, we can do whatever we want, like make a huge big opening, but we're not even trying to do that because of the visibility. So we are willing to compromise and say, like, okay, the sliding window, you know, oh, that's a good view.
Okay, can you see that? Sorry, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, and again, like the window, the neighbor, you can see to the left, that's the original height.
Yeah, so to me, personally, to me, my opinion, if you lower this one, and actually you can see that historically, their window was lower. I see there is a patch
Yeah,
up.
we're bringing it back to that lower height.
So you bring it back, so you know,
Right.
and you are going to reuse the same bluestone window sill, right?
Yes. Yes, and along on the other side too, they were both raised up because there's a bathroom in that area and there's a tub. So they raised, at some point, they raised these both up. We were taking out that bathroom and re-lowering to get restored to the original heights.
So to me, you know, if I will have to look at this from a preservation point of view, I see this configuration historically valuable. I actually see even the deck railing an intrusion on the vision. I see that we have actually still here the 6/6 historic window. Those are the original window, right?
No.
No, because it's the different size.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, but
And
this
they're
one,
not 6/6, they're just like an applied mullion thing. But
oh, it's an apply. Okay, okay. But anyhow, from the distance, that's what is meant to be, right? To give the sense of historic, and so that's what I see. And so, you know, to me, my motion would be not to approve the proposed window, to approve the lowering of the upper window, but
We're not talking about the
that's not even being a review.
just talking about the lower window.
And yeah, and I will add a comment, if it's possible, to question Landmark about the deck, even if they said no, because we have an history with 1093. And if you can see here, it was approved contained within the line of the building. That's the deck. It's the black one. You can see how the red one is actually.
But they're decreasing the width of it, right? Will it be in line with the one 2 doors down?
Yeah, it's reduced. We're reducing it to less than 6 feet, the deck. And right now it's at 14, 15, 13 feet roughly.
So to be more in line with the neighbors.
Correct. It actually is probably less than that. I mean,
that's how the building was approved by in 2017. 1093, which is the same building, is the last of those series of historic building.
Right.
So that's how the deck was approved. So maybe we should make a motion for that, but also launch a comment, because those are important elements. And this view, it was not indicated there, but definitely in the application from 1093 in 2016, this view was actually indicated in their application in the drawings.
It's something I don't understand the comment you want to add to it.
To question Landmark about the deck, honestly.
About the proposed deck is going to be the same width as the neighbors.
No, it's gonna, the one of the neighbor is actually inset in the inset area. And that one is gonna project.
That one has a different, as you can see by the width of the deck, this is some different context situation happening here, because that's a full width deck and you wouldn't be able to inset it in our situation.
Right.
Because there's the alleyway and then there's the rear portion. So it's only like a 4 foot wide in the alleyway, and then the rear portion is like 6 feet wide.
Okay.
So it's a different situation. I'm not sure, without looking at an aerial view or plan, how they managed to recess the deck like that, but it's not possible for us to do that.
What does the committee think of 2 double hung windows, which would keep the width, or as opposed to keep the width, the proposed width, but instead of the sliding windows, it would be
we would definitely compromise for something. I mean, the slider was I'm sorry.
This is Bożena Kamiński. I like to approve the larger window. We do have people in the community who are renovating those brownstones. They're trying to make it to look as much as possible and be with the guidelines. So this is a back window. It's going to be visible, and I'm inclining of approving this larger window and the proposal.
I mean, I
Okay.
think that it does make sense as a landmarks decision to try and keep the style of window. I mean, I think generally speaking, it doesn't offend me in any way, but I do appreciate if it is that we're trying to uphold a certain standard to try and maintain that style. So whether that's 2 windows or 1 larger window, you know, I'm open to that discussion, and I think would make sense to accommodate the light within that room.
I would feel better about the, you know, the more contextual double hung window that would be more in style and keeping and contextual with the other windows. I just think the window that they're proposing is just not contextual at all. So I would feel better about approving the double hung.
Also, Trina, just for educational purposes, that block on Lorimer is actually very important. You know, they are very noticeable building, very well preserved at the front, you know, and so it's when you have visibility of the rear, which normally we don't consider because there is no visibility, it's important. It's a very important historic indication. Once in a while, you even have visibility of the front and the back. And thus we know what, you know, who was the architect that designed this building. We know where we were built. There is all an history there. So that's the only reason. You know, it's not being against the window. It's not being against limiting anybody. That's what it,
for sure.
That's what landmark is. That's what you just said before. So I believe it's very important for our committee to clarify this, and that's the position that the committee is taking. It's an historical position. That's all. Thank you.
Can I say something? I just say, I mean, I respect the, you know, the practical aspect of it. And, you know, a lot of alterations that have happened with these rear views. But I totally support the idea of we have to, you know, keep to our standards and preserving, you know, the details in the historic district. And, you know, we have this view. We have this view of the yard. And you know, I'm trying to, you know, without a clear rendering of what it would look like in color, it's really hard to imagine it. And my initial gut reaction is it seems kind of out of whack with that. And the double hung seems like, you know, potential better option. But again, that without actually seeing it. But yeah, I think, you know, we you know, I feel like we have to stick to our guns and let city, you know, LPC and the architects, you know, come up with something hopefully that's truly
And
contextual.
sticking to our guns, Steve, are you suggesting that we stick to the original width of the window? Or are you comfortable with 2 double hung windows next side by side, which, and so the top and the bottom windows are not the same size? The second one is probably double the width of the top one.
Yeah, I think sticking to guns meaning finding something more contextual. And so I feel like, yeah, the double hung, so I would suggest that we, as you said, disapprove the, you know, the rendering.
Window.
Yeah, that we have now, and instead
Right,
look
not the
into a
glider.
double hung or something more, or design more contextual.
I agree with that. I think that's a really good idea to have the double hung windows there.
Double hung window at the proposed width.
Yeah, I would say the proposed width. I'm very much against changing facades in a way that's not historic. Very much. But I don't feel the same way here because of the that it's not going to be that it's in your face essentially. I don't think I've ever looked down that alley. I don't know if I ever will. I don't know if I'll ever notice it.
Well, what's unfortunate, a lot of those buildings, the backs have been modernized, but this is the one building that you see. And so
Right.
that's
I understand, Trina. I do understand.
So the compromise would be I guess what we're saying is we would disapprove the window, the proposed window, and suggest instead that they look to a more contextual window, similar like a double hung window or something like that.
Yes,
And should we not comment on the width and just say double hung, or should we say that we're comfortable with the width?
I think it could be,
We should
I think
maintain
as
the
long as
existing
it's
one.
within
Oh,
that
sorry.
style. Sorry. I think it should be the same style of window, so it's double hung, and whether it's a larger double hung or if it's two of them, in my opinion, is fine.
Yeah.
Now, if we change it, I believe the problem is changing the size. I mean, is there alignment with the upper window and the lower window, which it has this proportion of the opening? And that's why I said the window above that they're lowering down to most likely was modified historically. I see from the picture, if I'm not wrong, that the brick has been patched up. They will lower and will match the height of the neighboring building. But the lower window, the one they want to enlarge to these 3 pane of glass, should be kept to their historic configuration, which is the one we see in the existing rear facade. Did I say that clearly?
You did, but I don't know if everybody agrees with you. I agree with you, but I don't know how the rest of the committee feels.
So to me, I don't know, it's awkward. What are we going to, first it's going to be a giant double hung window, but the whole point is that the opening is this large square. It's kind of awkward, but
are all the windows the same size across the house? It seems like some of them are larger.
You only have one window in this house.
only one window. The one is the neighboring building, and so we looking at this building.
I meant in the front of the house too, though. Are they all uniform?
Yeah.
Oh, but uniform, but is there alignment between the upper floor and the lower floor? They are all the same size. That's
if I can share the screen, like even on the front facade, there's no, I mean, can I share my screen again? Or,
sure.
I don't know if I'm allowed to keep talking.
No, keep talking. You're fine.
I don't see how to share it. Oh, here we go, sorry. So when you're talking about alignment, if you even look at the front facade, it's a little hard because of this tree, but the upper 2 windows don't even align with the lower ones. The top 2 are the same height across. I guess you can see it by the neighbors, but even the lower window, it's larger and it's offset. Even the door is offset. So
but the windows are vertical. They're not, basically you're creating a square by putting the 2 windows together, or much more of a square, whereas the windows in the front and the back originally were more vertical.
Correct, yes, but in terms of the rear facade, yes, they were more aligned. Like these windows are offset slightly as well, but on the front there is some, you know, context for it not shifting. And again, it is aligned in the same axis, but again, even the basement window, which you wouldn't really see because it's below the deck, is not aligned. So there are some shifts, and we're not really proposing like making this floor to ceiling glass because we knew that would be too far, but we do feel like, again, like this window style isn't the right context for this. So like switching it to the same proportion as the double hungs above, but just having 2 double hungs, but keeping it the same size and proportion as the window above, but just having them side by side, I think would help balance out the fact that we are making it wider.
Well, and I guess my question was the one on the upper right is also larger than the one to the left.
Correct, yes.
That's true.
So I think that, you know, I think personally, and obviously everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I think that if it were that you had 2 of at least the same window there, I don't think it would change the exterior facade that much.
And again, it is that view down that alleyway. It's not very, I mean, obviously locals who are there every day will be looking down it. But again, if we do mirror the proportion of the window above, but just have 2 side by side, I don't think it would really stand out as something like, oh, that looks like it would never be there. Because you can't really see the other buildings next to it that well. So it's really just this one view.
Can I say really to me, first, you know, if this is done by Landmark and the public hearing, they could decide to send it back to staff level, and will be a series of drawings or proposition, and they'll review their way. If in changing with a double hung that is bigger, it will be appropriate. I believe it's a decision. If it is such not a problem, it's a decision that could happen directly in the hands of the LPC and done that properly, you know.
Well, then maybe it does make sense to disapprove for the proposed window and ask that the owner and architect stick with the original style window, and then leave it up to them whether it's double, not even comment on the width, and let LPC then.
Right, at staff level, I mean, we could say that we'd rather see something that is maintained historically, but if the preservation is that the LPC will feel confident, and they're gonna have to present, when you do window, you have to present molding, drawings, detail,
Right.
and we're not seeing that now. I mean, and if we had several options, probably it would have been a more specific choice and vote that we could give, but we're talking abstractly, how it should be without seeing drawings, personally,
Well, given with what we've got, are you guys comfortable with what I said, disapproving the proposed window and asking that they stick with the original style window?
Yes.
I would second that.
Yes.
Okay.
So Jerry, can we have a vote?
Also, Trina, are we sure that that the application is limited to this, because we have a full package which include other stuff?
I think we have to believe the architect.
Okay.
Yes, this is coming straight from Landmarks, because when I sent it to community board, we had even more stuff, the front windows and all that. And last week I had a meeting with Landmarks, and they're like, no, I had to actually take out sheets because we had extra stuff, and I didn't want it confusing the main focus, which is this one window.
Well, what we can say is that we've limited our scope to just that rear window. I mean, we can say that was the direction that we were going.
Can you explain the motion again, Trina? Sorry.
Okay, so we're disapproving. So we've been asked to comment on the rear window. I guess was that the second floor, or is it the first floor?
It's the parlor level, first floor, yeah.
Parlor level in the rear, and given the visibility from Guernsey Street, we're asking for disapproval of the proposed window and ask that the owner's architect stick within the original style of window, the building's original style of window.
So does that preclude?
We're not commenting on the width. We're leaving that for Landmarks to deal with.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Okay, and Corey seconded. So Jerry, we're ready for a vote.
Okay. Del Teague,
Yes.
Maria Vieira. Maria
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
Trina McKeever,
Yes.
Stephen Chesler,
Yes.
Erin Drinkwater,
Yes.
Moisha Indig, Ozena Kaminsky,
No.
Abraham Leibovitz, Sante Michelli,
Yes.
Rabbi Niederman, Karen Nieves, Isaac Sofer, Robert Solano, Stephen Weidberg,
Yes.
William Vega,
Yes.
Simon Weiser, Michael Andrews,
Yes.
Keith Berger, Corey Canton,
Yes.
thank you, Michael Kowachka, Katie Napolitarski,
Yes.
Allison Stone, yes, 1 no, 0 abstention. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, thank you, everybody. Happy New Year again, and see you all soon at the full board meeting. Bye.
Stay safe. Stay safe, people. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you.